This video in the Applying and Matching into Residency playlist is all about how to write a good personal statement. Now this actually, I think the same principles apply if you're a pre-med applying to medical school. I've definitely learned a lot and my personal statement improved, but I'm going to focus on the residency application process and a few things that are specific for that. Now, if you want help with any of this, whether one-on-one tutoring or individualized help with via email, here's the link here along with all of our social medias. We'd also appreciate if you subscribe to us here on YouTube so we can continue sharing with more people. But with that, I am actually going to show you my real personal statement, the one that I used as I applied to residency. So here it is. It is 511 words or one page, which many people recommend you should do a one page and no longer. And when you get to Eris and you're actually able to get on there and download it, you'll see what it means. You download it and it will be a PDF, and it will either be one or it will carry over into the second page. And I just had to type it in there and kind of figure it out. There really isn't a word limit where because it depends on how long the words are. So you're going to be around the 500 word limit. No longer than that for sure. You can do a little bit shorter, but this will come up in your interviews. This is very, very important, and people will ask you about it. This is your chance to highlight what about you do you want them to know, and some of those key points they're going to bring up in your interview. I had multiple interviews where they had only read my personal statement. They hadn't read the rest of the application. Sometimes that was on purpose, and other times it's just because they hadn't had time to get to it yet or whatever it may be. But this is a very, very important part of your application. So don't slack on it. Definitely spend time and get many revisions from all your friends and family. Now, I'm going to go through the different sections of mine, and this was how I was taught to sort of write mine and kind of a guideline, or at least for you to get started with yours. The first paragraph of mine is why this specialty. And then I go on to what are my interests within, so I applied to dermatology, what are my interests within dermatology? What do I want to do with this career? Here's some cool stuff about me that I wanted to highlight. And then I put this as I want to be with you, or what I want paragraph, which is convince them, please interview me because I want to go there. And I'm going to go a little more into specifics with each of these. So here you can see this is the first paragraph, which is why this specialty, why dermatology. And here I share this story. It actually was quite a bit longer. It was almost 2 paragraphs. I shortened it down quite a bit because someone that was a dermatologist recommended and said, you know what, everyone knows why this specialty is great. They just want to know that you have a really an actual compelling reason to do it. It's not just that you want a great lifestyle or want a lot of money. If you have some true connection to the specialty. So you can see this paragraph here, I talked about an experience I had with a patient, and that was really all I went into, and I didn't touch on it after that. Now this is the paragraph where I'm talking about my interests, cool stuff about me. You can see my interests where I talk about global health up here in the first paragraph here. And then some of my research that I did has to do with prior authorizations and things like that. This paragraph here is mostly on global health, but I also, you can see I tie in here a personal career goal of mine, and not just here's what I've done, because they're going to read your application, but why is the stuff that you've done, how does that tie into your future and what kind of resident you're going to be or attending even after that? And then the cool stuff about me. So I highlighted AnKing, because obviously I've done this huge AnKing project. I started multiple businesses around it. I've raised money and started projects and worked on the flashcards. So I kind of tied on that, and then I tied those skills into other things that I have done and highlighted some projects I worked on that I wanted people to know about. And almost every single thing you see right here on the screen came up in my interviews. Almost every single interview. I was asked about Ghana in almost all of my interviews. I was asked about these research projects. AnKing came up pretty much every interview. Because I highlighted it on my personal statement, people were like, wow, this is cool. What is this? They weren't reading it on the rest of my application. They were reading it here in my personal statement. And then this last paragraph here, which is I want to be with you. This is what I want in a program. So you can see I talk about the type of person that I want to be, but I'm looking for a residency program that will do these interests. If you're interested in academics, talk about why. And that's why you're applying to this academic program. Or if you're interested in primary care, and that's why you're applying to this primary care internal medicine track, whatever it may be. And then, obviously end on a pretty strong note. Now, if you are applying to preliminary years, which I did for dermatology, there's only a few select ones. I used basically the same personal statement, but you can see here's the 3 paragraphs I ended with. So I put where I applied to internal medicine, transitional years, and pediatrics. I basically changed, it's the same paragraph, but I changed it to make it look more why I wanted to go to these programs. And then here's the key part that I'm very thankful somebody really went over with, is you should customize your personal statements. So here's that last paragraph of my personal statement. And then I wrote about, this is my homeschool, University of Utah, so I'm using it as an example. But I explained, one, why do I want to go to that school? Why is that important to me? But also why the location. You can say I talk about, beyond the training, that my wife's family's here in Utah. And so it makes a big deal for me. And I did that with other places too. Why do I want to go to North Carolina, or why do I want to go to Ohio? My dad trained in Ohio. That's where I was born. So I wrote about that. You want to make something that's going to give you a strong connection to the program. I promise that's going to really help you a lot. And here's another example. So you can see this is the first one here is Geisinger Dermatology, which was a program I had identified early on as something I think I would really like. I sent a preference signal there. My wife lived there before, and you can actually bold and underline things in Eris, which people told me not to do. But I decided to do it very scarcely. Don't overdo it for sure. This is the only paragraph I did it, but I underlined this about my wife having lived there previously and why I have some tie to rural Pennsylvania. And then I also wrote, we decided to send a preference signal here, which I feel like actually worked really well in my favor, because once the interview process was over, that preference signal thing kind of went away. It wasn't in the application, but every single person that interviewed me read my personal statement and knew that I had sent that preference signal. So they knew I had a connection, an interest in the program and in the location. And then this is the prelim, and I talked about that I sent my, preference signal to the Derm program. I'd love to stay there, and talked about that. So really use this paragraph here and maybe one bold sentence or something to highlight, what do you really want them to know? When I applied to Ohio, I wrote in there, this is where I was born and I love Ohio State. So use that to your advantage. I think customizing is really important. I applied to plenty of dermatology programs, over 100, but I did this customization for probably about 30 schools, and then a couple prelims that I really wanted associated with those derm programs that I wanted. So whatever you're going into, I think that customizing your personal statement, at least for a few schools, is really going to be beneficial. I think I got a couple interviews because of this. So that's really all I have for personal statements. Good luck in writing yours. I realized after recording the whole video that it might actually be helpful to see it in ERAS, which I'm not going to have access to here in a few days, so I'm recording very quickly what it looks like. So these are all my personal statements. You can create a new one from this website, and then this, you can see I put lots of them in and labeled them according to what they were. But as you go into it, you can edit it, and it pulls up like this. You can do, this is the title that nobody sees. That's how I organized it. And then my personal statement, which I copied and pasted into everything. And if I go into actions, actually I'll go back to the edit, you can view it from that actions screen as well and preview it, then you can see that it's one page. So I can see how much of the page it takes up. And then, like I said, there's tons. I have a lot of these that I had uploaded. So if I go into here, then these are all my programs I applied to, and you can assign documents to each of them as you're going through. So you can see for this program, I assigned personal statement dermatology general, which is just the one that I used for most programs. And so same thing, like here's Cleveland, but this is personal statement derm Cleveland. I specialized and talked about it because I lived in Ohio, things like that. Here's Ohio State, which I was born there. My dad did training there, so I wrote about that in my personal statement. And then here's a transitional year, so I tracked that one. You can see there was the transitional year general, and the same thing applies to your letters of recommendation. You're applying all of those. So anyway, hopefully it's just helpful to see it on ERAS, and kind of get it is fairly self-explanatory once you get to this point. Thanks for learning with the AnKing. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel here, as well as follow us on Facebook, Instagram, or Patreon. That is at AnKingMed. Also, feel free to reach out via email or check out our website, ankingmed.com, for more tips and tricks.